Welcome to Cooper's Destiny, Book 3, Sperrier, by Mike Travis, PhD, written by Mike Travis, PhD, copyright 2019, version 2.0. Dedication. I am dedicating this book to all the people who fight every day to protect our home planet Earth. The scenario I created in this book is one guess at what might happen in the future. I think someday we will reach other planets, but for now, this is a fantasy, and Earth is the only world we know, so we must care for it in everything we do. Sperrier means to hope in Italian. Acknowledgements. I want to thank my family for all their support throughout the writing of this trilogy. At times I know I was lost in thought, trying to solve plot problems or decide how to end this series. I especially want to thank Barb Terry and Susie Travis, who spent countless hours editing and giving me constructive feedback to help make this book better. I also want to thank Kalia for her wonderful edits and suggestions that help me write a better story and give the characters more depth. Last year, I was able to see my close friend Evan Schultz in person, and it was like we were never apart. Evan once again designed a beautiful cover for me and found a way to bring the three books together. Thank you so much, Evan. Prologue. Vice Chairman Paul Samuels was still in shock. He was just about to see the final solution come to fruition with the assassination of the chairman, but something went wrong. It was Major Ryder once again foiling the plans. "We are the EOA. How could we be defeated with God on our side?" The vice chairman wondered, looking to the heaven and shaking his fists. Somehow Ryder not only stopped the assassination of the chairman, but also the destruction of the moon base and Gemini as well. All Paul could do was shake his head. "Was it truly over? Please, Lord, save me," he said, praying to himself, hoping for some sort of miracle that would have to come from God himself. "Let's go, Vice Chairman," the soldier said as he grabbed Paul by the arm and pulled him up from his seat. Paul just arrived at the Moon-based detention center. After a quick processing, he was being moved to the wing of the facility for criminals awaiting trial. The soldier walked him down the corridor. As they passed rooms, he could hear taunting and jeering from the other inmates. This was not a welcome place for a man who was once the vice chairman of the entire World Space Congress, but now a traitor to the world. There have to be a few loyal EOA in some of these cells, Paul hoped. He could see that this area didn't allow for much chance of an escape. The hallway was filled with locking doors that were spread out after every set of 4 rooms. Each room only contained one small window in the door, big enough to handle a small tray of food, and the back of the wall was solid rock, since they were underground somewhere deep in the moon. When they reached his room, A308, the soldier radioed back to his partner. "We are here. Open the door." The radio crackled, and then the response came. "Door opening. Put the vice chairman in his room." The light on the room turned green, and the soldier turned the handle and escorted Paul into his room. Taking a remote from his pocket, he used it to release the handcuffs from Paul and pushed him to the bed. "Enjoy your new life, Vice Chairman." The soldier turned, chuckling a little as he headed out the door, which locked behind him. Paul looked around the room. He was sitting on a small white bed. There was a white sink and toilet in one corner, and that was it. The walls were as white as the bed, except for the solid rock on the back wall. He sighed. "Well, I guess God has failed me." Paul woke, and for a moment he had no idea where he was. Then it all came back to him. He was in the cell on the moon, and it had only been a few days. He got up and washed his face, looking in the small mirror. He was questioning everything now that he was here. Was there something else I could have done? Did my father Sebastian cause this? Where is my God when I need him? Paul wondered. He got dressed in his orange jumpsuit slowly, meticulously. He wondered where his breakfast was. It usually arrived by now. He was just about to go to the door and bang on it when he was startled by the noise of explosions down the hall. He looked to the door. It miraculously opened, and a friendly face peered in at him. "Vice Chairman, we must go now," Talbot instructed. Talbot, the trusted servant of the Samuels family. Last Paul heard, he was with Sebastian in Atlanta, But then the station there was wiped out by Ryder's team. Paul hesitated for only a moment. Then he was moving without a second glance back at the cubicle they called a room. The other men with Talbot put a helmet on him and a heavy armored jacket. Then arms interlocked with his, and he was led quickly through a maze of corridors into a small hangar. Talbot was leading the way, but there were many of his Earth-only agents, EOA, there, bowing to the vice chairman as he passed and giving the sign of the organization, one hand formed in a ball and the other hand wrapped around it. Somehow, Talbot and the EOA found a way to free me, Paul thought. God believes in our mission. This truly is a miracle. They climbed the ramp and into the back of a space cruiser. Talbot strapped Paul in and sat next to him, strapping himself in as well. Vice Chairman, you are free. The final solution took a bad turn, but we have it back on track again. I will take you to the Queen's headquarters, and we can finalize the plan for stopping the Mayflower. All is not lost, Father. Thank you, Talbot, and thank you to God for willing that our mission continues. With Paul's strength and confidence restored, we will bring all humans back to Earth very soon. Talbot nodded, and the spaceship lifted off. Chapter 1. Commander's Office, The Orb. Newly promoted Commander Trevor Ryder sat at his desk in 0G. He looked to his left through the windows that faced the Earth. The bright blue of the ocean reflected back the beauty of life. He still couldn't believe that he had accepted this promotion. But after so many of the leaders of the United Government Military Space Commission, UGMSC, were arrested, having been exposed as members of the EOA, it was left to him. He looked down at the table and ran his hand over the surface. It was the same table where Commander Gerard told him years ago that his daughter died, not by accident, but deliberately killed by the EOA, who were trying to destroy the USS Voyager before it left for Sperrier. It was also the same desk where Commander Smith, an undercover EOA member, gave him orders for years, sabotaging his every move in the hopes that he would get killed as well. Now Ryder was in charge. How did I let this happen? Ryder wondered. I thought I was too old for this. There was a knock at the door, interrupting his thoughts. Come, Ryder ordered. A short, stocky soldier entered and floated at attention in front of him. Specialist John Samuels reporting as ordered, sir. Ryder looked at him, staring deeply into his eyes for a moment. Then he ordered Samuels to sit. Samuels used the handholds to maneuver himself into a place across from Ryder, using the footholds and strap to secure himself to the seat. Samuels, Ryder started, looking at his handheld device and reviewing the case. First of all, I want to thank you again for not shooting Cooper when you had a chance. I am not sure if you realize this, but you are as much of a hero as Cooper is. Ryder let this sink in for a moment before continuing. If you hadn't taken Cooper to the nuclear bomb so he could disarm it, we all would have died that day. I'm very proud of you, son. Samuels wasn't sure how to react. After Cooper stopped the bomb, everything changed. He was quickly escorted from the space station and put on a military ship in isolation. For the past few weeks he was alone, locked up in detention, so hearing Ryder's words now confused him. Sir, Samuel started, I don't know what to say. On the one hand, you are saying that I'm a hero, but that is not the way I've been treated. I feel like I'm a prisoner. Ryder stared at him for a moment. I just don't know if I can trust him, Ryder thought, but he is our best bet. Samuels, I am to blame for that, and I am sorry you were treated that way. I have been trying to decide what to do with you. You are in a very unique position, and I have an idea, but I'm not just sure yet if I can trust you or if you are willing. His voice trailed off, thinking aloud. Sir, Samuels started again, you can trust me. I am not with the EOA. That was my family's thing, and I hated it. Cooper helped me realize the truth of the EOA. I despise all of my family for the way I was treated, manipulated, and abused. Samuels looked directly into Ryder's eyes as he said this, trying his best to maintain his composure. This is good to hear, Samuels, because what I'm about to ask you might be beyond your capabilities. I can do anything. What is it? Samuels asked arrogantly, leaning forward. First, let me ask you, has your father, the vice chairman, ever seen your hatred of the EOA? Does he believe you are with him or against him? I hate my father and I want nothing to do with him, Samuel said, quite forcefully, sitting back in his seat again and folding his arms over his chest. That is not what I'm asking, Ryder hesitated for a moment before continuing. You see, the vice chairman, your father, escaped from prison 2 days ago. Samuels looked at Ryder with disbelief. What? How is that possible? He was planning on assassinating the chairman and taking over. I thought he was in prison. Do you have extra guards on him? He said this with heavy frustration and anger. If he could get up, he would have, but he was strapped into a chair, so he didn't go floating around the room in zero gravity. And it would not be good to get up and start yelling at the commander of the entire military. That might just put him back in detention, or worse, charges of treason. Relax, Corporal, Ryder ordered, and he could see that Samuels took a breath and calmed down a little, unfolding his arms and putting them in his lap. Reviewing the escape, it appears to be an inside job. We have yet to find a way to clear all of the EOA soldiers who penetrated the military ranks. Worse than that, there was no way to track his escape, so we have no idea where he might be. So what? Do you think I know where he is? I haven't talked to him in months. My last message from him was just to make sure I didn't screw up the mission to Gemini, and you see where that got me. If I ever see him again, he will probably want to beat me to death. Now, Samuels, we come to the real reason you are here. You see, the reason I sequestered you ever since you and Cooper stopped the bomb is that I didn't want anyone in the EOA to know what happened. The EOA you shot in the motor pool and the hangar bay all died. This means that no one in the EOA knows where you are or even that you switched sides. We could easily put out a message that the reason you are being held is that you were caught trying to blow up the Gemini. We can make up a backstory to ensure that in the eyes of your father, you did what you were supposed to do. Ryder stopped to let this sink in. It took Samuels a moment, but then he started to understand. So are you suggesting that I go back to my father? Yes, Corporal Samuels. That is exactly what I'm saying. You are in a unique position of infiltrating the EOA, getting close to your father, and then telling us what their future plan is, so we can stop it. You can be a hero to the world. Samuels looked out the window for a few minutes, thinking. Damn, Samuels thought. I hate my father. I don't want to go back. What will Ryder do with me if I don't accept? I have to find a way out of this detention cell. But no, this is not the way. He looked back at Ryder defiantly. I don't care if you order me, sir. I am not going back to that monster. This is your problem. You deal with it. Ryder looked at him and pushed a button on the table in front of him. 2 guards appeared at the door. Maybe a few more days in isolation will help you make the right decision. Samuel shook his head a few times, unstrapped from the chair, and floated to the door. Now the guards took him back to his cell. Now it was Ryder's turn to look out the window and think. Samuels doesn't believe it, but he is the best choice for this mission. I guess I will have to be even more persuasive. 2 days later, Samuels was sitting across from Ryder once more. Ryder started. John, let me make this clear. The EOA is a dangerous organization, and they are not done yet. Even though we stopped them from destroying Gemini and Armstrong, they still have the power to walk away right into the moon base prison and get your father out. I am asking you to help us, not because you are Paul's son, but because you care about this world. You want humans to be in space. You want people like Cooper to explore new worlds. I know you hate your father, but I can protect you. I will give you a strong alibi to make sure they won't know your part in Gemini. Samuels looked at him, surprised by Ryder's candor and persuasion. I am just not sure, sir. Let me show you then. As Ryder said this, he turned around his handheld and showed it to Samuels. The screen was divided into 2 windows. On one window was a headline that read, Specialist John Samuels, son of ex-Vice Chairman Paul Samuels, captured, attempting to destroy the USS Gemini. The second article was entitled, Specialist John Samuels Escapes from Custody, Believed to be Rejoining the EOA. After reading the two articles, Samuels looked up at Ryder and said, Are you asking me to go back to my father and join the organization that I hate? Sir, he will beat me no matter what these articles say. He is a monster, I'm telling you. Are you really asking me to go back to him? Ryder looked at Samuels in the eyes. No, soldier, I'm not asking you. I am ordering you. If all goes well, you will find yourself promoted again and with many medals of honor. This caused Samuels to pause. He was enjoying the corporal rank, having only been in the military for a few months. Maybe he would be a sergeant after all this was done. Being promoted and a hero to the world had a lot of appeal to him. Samuels thought for a minute and finally gave in. Fine, I accept your orders, sir. Chapter 2. Outside the Gemini Space Station. Cooper found himself upside down in space, outside of a hallway that ran along the hangar bays. He could see people floating along the hallway on their way to dinner. No dinner for him. He scarcely ate any meals in the chow hall since the attack from the pirates a few weeks back. Thinking back, he was surprised it was actually so long ago, almost 3 weeks since the attack. After hugging Ryder and seeing Samuels taken away, Cooper was quickly whisked away from the nuclear bomb that he disarmed, with only seconds to spare. Soldiers took him to a battle cruiser where he waited at a conference room table for a long time. A young woman, Corporal Jewel, as her name tag read, sat across from him. After waiting for more than an hour, Cooper decided to see if he could get any information. Corporal Jewel, do you know where my grandfather, Major Ryder, is right now? He was hoping that by letting her know that he was related to Ryder, it would get him more answers. Jewel looked up from her handheld and replied, He is unavailable at the moment, but I was told he would be here soon. She went back to her handheld, but then looked up again and asked, Is it true that you disarmed the bomb? Cooper wasn't sure what to say, but he wasn't going to lie. Yes, that is correct. I wasn't sure if I'd be able to do it. If it wasn't for Samuels, I wouldn't have known there was a bomb. He took me right to him. She scowled at him. Samuels. Yes, Corporal John Samuels. I served with him in basic training. Again, Cooper wondered how much he should say, but no one told him he could keep a secret. He decided, though, to minimize the damage to Samuels by not telling her about how he almost shot Cooper when they first saw each other. You see, he protected me from some of the other EOA soldiers and led me right to the bomb so I could disarm it. She scowled again and said, You don't mean Samuels, the son of Vice Chairman Paul Samuels, whose grandfather is Sebastian Samuels. Well, Cooper thought about it. Yes, I do believe that Samuels mentioned that his father was the vice chairman, but I don't know about his grandfather. That could be his name, I guess. You do realize that John Samuels' grandfather, Sebastian Samuels, killed some of our team and held Major Ryder hostage for more than 3 weeks. And Vice Chairman Paul Samuels is a real winner as well. If it hadn't been for Major Ryder and some of Tracker's connections, he would have assassinated the chairman of the World Congress and taken the power himself. Well, Cooper didn't know what exactly to say. Obviously, this Cooper Jewel wasn't too fond of Samuel's family. Hold on, did you say my grandfather was being held hostage? Yes, the EOA ambushed us in New Atlanta and killed 2 of my fellow soldiers. For the longest time, we weren't sure if the major was alive, but he finally escaped and we killed Sebastian Samuels in the street before blowing up the EOA compound. Jewel spoke this with an obvious hatred in her voice. Hey, I'm no fan of the EOA either, Cooper said, getting a little irritated by her tone. John Samuels is not one of them. Well, he may have appeared to be one of them because of his family ties, but he is not on their side. He single-handedly killed 4 EOA soldiers just so I could reach the ship and disarm the bomb. We could have all died an hour ago if it wasn't for his courage. Cooper was surprised by the strength of his support for Samuels. Something definitely changed between them, and he would defend him now. Well, one good deed doesn't necessarily forgive everything, but it is a start, Jewel nodded, conceding his point. A flash from the hallway brought Cooper back to reality. He went back to work using the sealant tool to fix the small cracks that ran along the corridor. While the cracks weren't too bad, they did need to be fixed right away or they could get worse from any pressure changes inside the space station. Koopa, how are you doing? He heard Ann's voice in his helmet. Good, he responded wearily. I should have this side fixed within, he thought about it, 20 minutes or so. He saw her come around the top of the tube and spin around until she was facing him. Well, she said, let me help you and maybe, just maybe, we can make it to the end of the chow line tonight. Thanks, that would be great, Cooper replied, turning the sealant tube back on and going to work repairing the cracks. As he did this, his mind drifted off again. After successfully stopping the bomb, he was forced to take a few days off to ensure he was safe for duty again. Military protocol dictated that any soldier involved in a near-death situation take time off for counseling before returning to duty. The military learned a lot about post-traumatic stress disorder, PTSD, over the years, and in fact, Cooper faced multiple near-death situations in just those few hours. He relayed all of this, as was protocol, to his military counselor. First, there were the missiles that were launched at him by the Blackbeard pirates. He and Anne just escaped being blown up before returning to the docking station. Then Samuels aimed a rifle at him, even firing a shot directly over his head. Next, he faced down Captain Dune and Rick, the fake salesman, who was actually an EOA member, and escaped being shot to death when Samuels shot them at the last second. And finally, he sat in front of a nuclear bomb for more than 8 minutes trying to disarm it, watching the time click down to 0 and praying that the wire he disconnected was the correct one. The counselor listened intently and asked questions where Cooper was nonspecific. In the end, he was cleared to go back to work. Cooper knew this would probably happen. While these situations might have wrecked a typical person, there was something about him that let it just roll off his back easily. Yes, these were scary situations, but all along he kept his dream in his mind, Sperrier. Maybe it was because Ryder drilled it into him so many times, calling it his destiny, but it seemed to give Cooper inner confidence that didn't worry him when he faced these near-death situations. He did, however, have some recurring nightmares about the nuclear bomb exploding that he was still trying to shake. If he cut the wrong wire, thousands of people would have died. He didn't mention these nightmares to the counselor, as he knew that Anne and Sergeant Bolts needed him back to work to repair the space stations. Anne was also faced a similar situation along with Daniels and Bolts, but since they were older, they seemed to make it through the protocol faster. So when Cooper did finally arrive at work, they were all there to greet him. As he entered the motor pool office a full 4 days after the battle ended, he was greeted with a cake in his honor. "Richardson!" Bolts exclaimed as he entered. "Son, come! We have been waiting for you so we can get started on the cake!" Daniel shook his hand, and in a surprising move, Anne gave him a big hug. As they gathered around the cake, Bolts quieted them and spoke. "Richardson, we are very happy to have you back. We are all thankful to you for disarming that bomb. I am amazed every day at your level of maturity, discipline, and instinct. Thank you." He reached out and shook Cooper's hand. Then Anne and Daniel slapped him on the back simultaneously. It seemed a little early for cake, but Bolts handed him a knife and asked him to cut slices for all of them. They sat for a couple of minutes just chatting about nothing. Then the conversation finally turned to work. Bolts brought out his handheld and shared the information with the rest of them. While there was still work on some of the ships in the motor pool, the focus of the next month would be on repairing Gemini. While the space station was intact for the most part, there were many minor breaches to the exterior hallways and docking areas from the attack of the Blackbeard pirates. Bolts continued. "When they attacked from the graveyard, they damaged most of the security shuttles and the space station's battlecruiser. In addition, the main part of the space station took collateral damage from the attack. Johnson and Richardson, your focus will be on the exterior areas, especially around the shuttle bays. After that, we will begin repairs on the shuttles, including Gemini's battle cruisers. Any question?" Anne and Cooper looked at each other and nodded. It was time to go to work. "Finally, I will have some help. I have been doing this all alone for the past 2 days," Anne exclaimed, then looked directly at Cooper and patting him on the shoulder, she said, "Let's go, hero." She gave him a little smirk as she said the word hero. "Hey, hero, I think we are done here. We might still have time to make it to dinner." Cooper heard this through the speaker in his helmet, and it brought him back to what he was doing. Ever since that first day eating cake, Anne was teasing him with that hero nickname. She wasn't the only one who changed since the attack. Of course, there were many stories of heroes that day. Even Josiah was talked about in one of the stories after they successfully entered the bridge to take on the Blackbeard leader. But one story was being repeated many times, and that was the story of how Cooper somehow found his way to the EOA ship and disarmed the nuclear bomb that would have destroyed the entire space station with only seconds to spare. Cooper didn't really like the attention he was receiving as he walked down the hallways. One time he went into the rec room with Josiah, and it erupted in applause for him. It was embarrassing. The worst part of it was that he couldn't tell the whole truth. Ryder told him that he needed to keep the part about Samuels a secret. He wasn't told exactly why, but it involved having Samuels possibly infiltrate the EOA in the future. When they made it back to the airlock, they finished changing in the locker rooms. Cooper was waiting outside for her. He had a nice view of the shuttles from here. He still couldn't believe all that happened to him in such a short time. He felt a tap on his shoulder and turned to see Anne grinning at him. "Well, hero, you want to get some chow?" she asked. Cooper frowned. "Anne, can you please stop calling me that? It is bad enough that it is all over the news about what I did, but I hate being reminded of it every day by you." He didn't want to be mean, but he might have come off that way. "Fine, Cooper," she said with scowling and looking out the viewpoint. Cooper grimaced. He didn't want to come off so angry to her. He overreacted a little and tried to apologize. "I'm sorry, Anne. I didn't mean to bite your head off. It's just that I'm struggling with some of the things that happened during that day, and I don't know. I just want to move on, if that's okay." He reached out to touch her on the shoulder. She turned to him, and he noticed Anne had tears in her eyes. "I'm sorry," she said, looking down. "I guess I used my humor to cover up my true feelings. I mean, we almost died out there when that missile was tracking us. If it hadn't been for your quick maneuvers, we never would have made it back to the base safely. And then, when you locked the locker and stayed behind in the motor pool, I didn't know if I would ever see you again." She looked up again, and their eyes met. Cooper reached out, and they hugged. Through all this time in training, they were becoming good friends, sharing stories of the past. Anne loved to hear the stories of Cooper's freelancing days, and Cooper loved to hear stories about Bolts when he was younger. He could sense that there might be romantic interests in the future, but he was just so happy to have a good friend at the moment. "It is okay, Anne. I get it. I have been struggling with some nightmares recently, just thinking about what might have happened if I'd cut the wrong wire. I mean, thousands of people would have died." Cooper's voice trailed off. "It has made me a little bit irritable, and I would rather just think about something else." Anne stopped hugging him and pulled away. She wiped her tears and took a deep breath. "I get it, Cooper. I have had nightmares as well, thinking about when we were in that ventilation shaft shooting at the pirates. I mean, I'm pretty sure I killed at least a few of them. I never thought I would do that. I'm an astromechanical engineer, not a soldier." "Let's just agree to move on and not talk about it, okay?" Cooper said as a way to conclude the conversation. "Agreed," Anne exclaimed, brightening up. "I think they are having steak for chow tonight. I'll race you there." Then she ran to the back wall, flipped off of it, and launched herself down the hallway toward the mess hall. Cooper, caught off guard, yelled, "Hey!" then did his own spin off the wall and pushed in the same direction.